Let's talk about the manager who's like always too busy to manage you, which is their job. Managers who are too busy to manage you, ironically, are many in humanitarian work. It's very typical, whether it's on the field or in HQ. I found, in fact, it much more problematic in HQ and in off-field offices than in the field. And it shouldn't be like that. It should be kind of opposite. Often, no, the field doesn't get the support because people are so busy in HQ with HQ-ness. All of the bosses I've ever had have been literally too busy to manage and support me properly. All of them. I can't think of one exception. They were too busy, their agenda's impossible, too many matters, too many emergencies, and too many people competing for their limited attention. Remember, attention, time, money, and energy are all limited resources. So what to do when your boss is too busy to manage you? Too busy to sit down with you and chat and discuss things in more depth. Too busy to get you the support you need. This is a big problem and can cause a lot of stress and burnout because you can sometimes feel that you're working on your own. But apart from that, apart from the damage and the harm, it's also not very effective, because working on your own intuition without any direction is not effective management, apart from you feeling abandoned. So it's particularly a problem with bosses that are higher up in the food chain or have a very heavy workload, because they will have no space in their agendas, their inboxes are inundated with so many mails, and there's a long list of things usually waiting for their attention, for their validation, and a lot of people waiting to see them, and a lot of people wanting to know about things that they know about. And this can be really hard for these types of senior managers. If you are being managed by somebody like this, who's quite senior or head of mission or whatever, and a lot of demands on their attention, their time, their energy, resources, you will have to learn to work with these kind of people. Yeah, competent managers know how to work with busy managers. It's part of learning how to manage. So there's difference between someone in a very senior position with a lot of demands on them and a person who just doesn't dedicate enough time to you. There's a difference. So there's somebody, like you could be managed by a manager who's too busy to manage you because of the demands on them. And then you could be managed by a manager who just doesn't manage you properly or doesn't give you enough time because they don't know any better. You have to be able to distinguish between the two. Every direct report ideally should have sufficient quality and quantity of time with their manager. It's essential. Prioritization, objectives, discussion of problems and the solutions, etc. And this should be prioritized by all managers who are managing people, above all the other priorities. The first, let's say, duty of a manager is to the people that they're managing. But, of course, they are also under pressure from their bosses and from the structure around them. And as I said before, the higher up they are, the more pressure they will be under, and you should understand that. You will have to gauge why your manager isn't spending time with you. Okay, if your boss is a country director or something like that, then you will understand. But if the person isn't, if they're a program manager, it can be because of just not very good at management. So there should be no excuse in that sense if you're working in the program level. But as I said, you have to learn to work with busy people, because the further up you go in the food chain, you will become also one of those very busy people. And I've felt it before in different positions. The lack of time available for me to adequately support the people I'm managing, I've had that, and it feels really bad. Yeah. And also I've had managers that have had no time to sit with me for maybe weeks. So you have to learn how to work with these types of people, particularly in humanitarian work. So here are some ways that you can, or some strategies that you can use with very busy people. First, make sure you plan the meetings. So if you have a meeting with your boss and your boss is very busy, make sure you have planned it. Don't wait for your boss to plan it. And then don't waste time. Get straight to the point of every matter and have a correct prioritization. The first thing to do is the things you need the green light for, validation for, decisions you need taken. Start with them and in order of priority. That's the most important thing. Yeah, don't start rambling about stuff or over-explaining stuff because they have limited time and limited attention. So get to the point, the crux of the matter, the validation you need in the first few minutes of the meeting. Do not expect your boss to prepare the meeting or have an agenda or anything like that. You must have that. You must have your points and they should be the most important. Yeah, because you don't know if halfway through the meeting your boss will receive a phone call and cancel the meeting. Happens all the time. If you know the person is under pressure and has a lot of unanswered emails and that stresses them, don't add to the pressure. Don't send them any emails. They will be, believe me, very grateful. There is no reason to send an email to someone who you know is overwhelmed by email and text messages. So be sensitive to people who are under pressure and under stress. Find more creative and relaxing ways to speak to your manager. Lunch times, maybe over lunch, a quick walk, something that relaxes them, not adds to their stress. Maybe a quick WhatsApp video with a bit of humor that you send, etc. Yeah, the last thing you want to do is overload even more an overloaded manager. Yeah, it's the last thing they need. If they perceive you as complaining, that's another thing. Busy managers who just don't have the time and are already stressed get even more stressed when people complain about them not having time to see them. So don't complain. Yeah, be strategic, be tactical, but don't complain about them not seeing you. It's just a waste of time. And believe me, you will make them feel bad and you will see them even less. So you have to work to making their management of you as easy as possible for them. Be succinct, be respectful of their time or lack of it, and be proactively informative so they don't have to work to get the information. Work in short spurts, short periods of times, rather than expecting a long meeting. If you know they don't have much space in their agenda, book 15 minutes and bring up one important topic, and then book another 15 minutes. Don't book 2 hours and go through 16 topics that they've never heard of before. Just say, for example, hey, I just need 5 minutes if you don't mind, because I need to make a decision about X and I don't want to make the decision without running it by you first. And then if you say 5 minutes, make sure it's 5 minutes unless they make it longer. Then of course you will need longer meetings with them. So set up a schedule, a frequency that you've discussed with them that works for you both, and make sure it's blocked in the person's agenda and that you are flexible if the person needs to cancel or whatever. Yeah. Always be prepared. Do not waste any time. Do not waste their time and be explicit about the support you need. Meetings with busy, stressed, under pressure people should be relaxed in tone and productive. Right? If you see that the person is having a hard time, then maybe you're think and wait, and maybe what you need to do is support that person. If you do that, you will see that things will get much better than if you're pressure. Yeah, if you're seen or perceived as a source of additional pressure, the reaction will be more tense. On the other hand, if the person is giving you no time at all and you're having to work on your own initiative and you don't have any direction, you don't have any prioritization, you don't have any objectives, that's impossible. Yeah, that's basically working blind, and that is unacceptable. And that's kind of when you need to say, okay, stop, basta, I can't do that. This is counterproductive to everything. The workflow, we're blocked, and you need then to get your boss to sit down and give you clear direction, deliverables, and if possible, support. So you always need to have a direction. You can't just work without direction. So even if that's one meeting that you have, at least the general direction is clear, and then the rest you work out as you go along by getting these snippets. If you are always ready for a snippet of time, that is good, because maybe in 5 minutes before a meeting or walking to a meeting, you will have the opportunity to discuss one small point. The other problem with busy managers who have no time is that they tend to want to get a lot of information from the people they are managing about what is going on, because they need it to explain upwards to their hierarchy and function lines, who are asking them questions about things that they don't know unless they talk to their direct reports. And this is a problem because it takes time, so they have to do this. So often you will find in a meeting they are extracting information from you because they need it for their hierarchy, but then there's not enough time for you to discuss the things that you wanted to discuss. And that's a problem. Hearing about something that affects your job, your work, and your role from the corridors, or gossiping instead of hearing it from your boss, is not a nice feeling. So if that starts to happen, if you start finding out about decisions that affect you directly or your team, and not from your boss, then that you need to address with your boss and say, okay, look, I heard about this. I prefer that you tell me that. With busy, stressed, overworked people, it's an art learning to work with them, and a hard one to master. You will feel frustrated a lot of the time. But they are valuable skills, because if you can learn to work with busy people, you will be recognized for that. Yeah? And as you move up the food chain, two things will happen. The risk of you becoming like them, if you haven't learned how to not become like them by prioritization, by giving people the freedom to work to priorities and objectives. And also as you move up the food chain, obviously you will encounter more and more busy senior people who have less and less time to support you. My advice is to learn to manage these types of people, but as a manager yourself, do your best to always have time for your direct reports. That is your job. It's the bottom line. And even though you don't have time to have long meetings, chatting and conversing with them, the minimum is to make sure they know what they're supposed to be doing and why. That means giving them clear prioritization, clear direction, and that they know they can come to you when they have a problem. That is essential. If not, it is very frustrating to work under managers who don't even see you and don't even give you any prioritization. It's virtually impossible. You can have a lot of initiative, but everybody needs direction. Everybody needs guidance.